Welcome back, guys, to the Nissan Z build. We are on step 6, which has us putting that section that we just finished building in step 5, gluing it to the chassis, which I think in the last video I showed you kind of a test fit of how it was. So now I need to actually glue it down. Then we are going to get this exhaust pipe with the, I guess, mufflers or catalytic converters or whatever those are, and the cross brace itself. So I went ahead and cut the pieces out since there was only 2, and so we get to do some painting, which calls for X32. I've also got that part ready to go. So it calls for this part here to be X32, which is X32 is titanium silver in Tamiya's acrylic line, but as you know, I'm using the LP paints. So titanium silver in the LP paints is LP 63. So I'll be using that to paint it. But I'm not going to paint it all just one color, because I think some of these parts would be different. So I'm probably going to airbrush, do a little bit of heat staining, not with my traditional blues and things like that, but just kind of like darks where the seams are, and maybe paint this actual unit here a different silver than titanium silver, just to kind of break it up and give it a little bit more life. So I'm going to do that. I'll let you know what colors. And then this part here, which is a brace, goes across the chassis. It calls for LP1, which is a gloss black, and that's just going to go. It's just going to go right here when we're done, and then the exhaust is going to fit right over it. And then we'll have another piece in the next step, and which also leads me to another discussion. I was looking at the directions, and step 7 is literally 2 parts that you have to paint LP1, and it also has the back part of the exhaust that is X32, the same as the exhaust that we're painting here. So what I think I'm going to do is include step 6, 7, and 8 in this video, because they're all the same colors and the same assembly process before we flip the car over and start on the other part of the chassis. So this video is going to be 6, 7, and 8. So I am going to cut out some parts. I'm going to cut out these parts here and get all of these parts into paint, and then we will be back. Also, I was cutting out part number D13, and I wanted to let you know to pay close attention to this diagram right here, because what it's saying is to carefully, when you're clipping it, it says be careful not to cut off this section of the part. So the sprue gate is right here to cut, and if you were just to go in there and cut normally, you might grab the sprue like this and cut right here where it's really close. But if you flip it over, you can see that if you cut it like that, you're going to cut off this little tooth. So it's best to flip the part over and cut there, leaving that tooth intact. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go cut from this side so we don't cut that tooth off. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to, because I know sometimes you guys could probably get bored of seeing me just cut parts. Okay, so because we clipped it on this side here, we left the little riser part here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little nit. So I'm going to go in and flat cut that off. It's perfectly smooth, and cut it off of there. Perfectly smooth. So what we've done is we've cut it from the sprue gate, and we've done it, but we've also still have that little tooth that it said make sure you don't cut off. So that is ready for paint, which it gets LP1, which is a gloss black. So that is ready for LP1. And I'm really enjoying, like I said, when you paint this up, you're going to see your gloss blacks mixed with your flat blacks, mixed with your semi-gloss blacks. And it kind of looks cool because it catches the light in different areas. So I know I'm a geek when it comes to that stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go back to cutting the parts. I just wanted to show you that special detail so that way you didn't mess up like I almost did and cut those off. Okay, see you in a bit. All right, we have some color shot. So we did the exhaust tips, and I knew I had to do some heat staining on these because I found some photos online of the undercarriage of the Nissan Z, and so I'm going to do some heat staining on the titanium silver parts, but I also saw a couple photos where these chrome exhaust tips had bluing and some violet colors on them, so I'm going to do a little bit of that to those. So, and I used instead of using Maltive on it, I used, which is slowly becoming one of my favorite colors for chrome, is LP48 by Tamiya Sparkling Silver, because it really has a scale. It's hard to show, but it really has a shine to it, and it's more durable than Maltive and things like that. I'll probably still use Maltive for like small bolt heads and stuff that won't be touched, but for now I think this is what I'm going to go with because I really like the scale appearance of that shine. So we got that going. We have the exhaust painted titanium silver. So that one is ready for me to now put in some. I'm going to use some Tamiya Smoke, which is a clear, I guess like a clear black, but it's just a transparent black. So it's called Smoke, and I'm going to go in on some of these lines, and I'm just going to give me some banding and some streaking through some of the exhaust and some of the areas back here. All right, so like I was saying, we have everything painted. We have that conglomeration is all gloss black. We have the cross piece, which is still a little tacky. That's done. I'm going to go ahead and pick out the silver bolts when it's all done. I'm going to really go through all of these and pick out just all the little bolt heads. And then, like I said, I'm going to go in now and start doing the weathering of this, all the exhaust parts. Make them a little bit more dimensional with some heat staining. And then we're going to do the chrome tips. So I am going to go paint some stuff, and I will be back. All right, we are back from painting, and I'm pretty happy with much of the results that we got. The first part that we are going to glue, since we're adding 3 steps in one video, because I'm just nuts. Okay, so we have, in the previous video, we built up this whole section here. Okay, and then we're supposed to glue it down, which I have done. It is glued in place and looks fairly decent. Looks clean. So now the rest of part 6 is to glue in the exhaust from the engine that heads towards the rear of the car, plus a gloss black cross brace. So we have our cross brace right here, and we have our exhaust right here. So I've done some heat staining and some exhaust and just some different colors just to add some depth to it. Now, I have not done a wash on it, which I am going to do. We're just going to glue it in place first, and then I'll go ahead and put a wash on it. So these two parts here go into these holes. Actually, no, I'm wrong. They go into these holes here, which aren't holes. They're just indentions at this time. Let me zoom in a little bit. So these indentions here is where these pins on the exhaust go. And then these pins go down inside the holes down on the side of the engine. So we're going to put a little glue on those. Let it wrap around. A little glue on that one. Let it wrap around. And we're going to put a little bit of glue in that hole and in that hole. Then we are going to slide this down into that hole. And we're going to line these up in that hole. And then it's going to push down and make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Those are there, those are there. I'm going to put a little bit more glue down where those are joining. Okay. Now, on the cross piece, I was trying to determine, because there's a little bit of angle, I wanted to make sure this was going the right way. But, again, Tamiya has designed it so there is a bigger hole here and a smaller hole here. So we just have to line it up. If we grab this part here, we notice that there's a bigger pin here, smaller pin, bigger hole, smaller hole. So going to grab some glue and put some in and around that hole, in and around that hole, and then we're going to take this and we're going to drop it in place. Just like that. It's down and being glued. So, let's look at something. Technically, if you wanted to, you could just add a little bit more glue around that. It'll seep under the part and help firm that up. Okay. So while that is drying, and before we do the other parts, I'm going to grab some Tamiya panel liner, dark brown. Shake it up real good. And I am going to get my extra eyes so I can see better. And my squeaky chair. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this panel liner. So, I'm going to just come in here and touch some of these and just let it flow around a little bit at a time. Get too much, I'm just going to get a brush. Sometimes, if I want a thinner panel line and it's not doing what I want, I'll get a really fine brush and I'll just dip it in the panel line, and then that way it lets me do a little bit more precise.
just barely touching it and kind of letting it go along those edges. Like I said, I don't want too much on there, but I do want some on there just to kind of highlight. Make sure I'm on screen. Sorry. Trying to show how it rolls. So you just touch it and it just kind of creeps right along those lines. So I just try to touch it, let it go around, touch it, let it go around. Come up here. Grab this little line here, let it just go. It looks dark now, but it's going to dry a lot lighter. It always freaks me out. It's like, oh no, I did too much, but I didn't. So that is that. I'll get a little bit going down. It'll be tough to see this, but I like it. I like it. I like it. So we'll do back here too. All right. So that finishes up step number, I believe it's 6. That finishes up step number 6. So now we're going to do step number 7, which I've already painted everything. I'm going to leave this. I'm going to do some more panel lining. All right, so step number 7, zoom back out a little bit, is these two cross pieces. And they call it the rear member. So we've got to glue those in, and then we have to slide the exhaust in underneath, underneath one but over the other. So I have it already together, mainly because I test fitted and the glue and the paint dried while it was test fitting. So it goes onto these back here and finishes up in these holes up here. So I am going to get a little glue. I need to put on my other glasses, so that way I don't have to bend down, and you guys see my white hair. All right, a little glue in there, a little glue in there, and on top. And then same with down here. Glue around on top and glue down in the hole. Glue around on top, down in the hole. And also has another point of contact, which is right here and right here, which I painted those, and now I guess I didn't need to. So we're going to drop this where it goes. It snaps in place. We're going to use this and make sure it snaps in place. There it goes. That's in place. That's in place. That's in place. That's in place. So just give everything a tap down again. It's wanting to ride up for some reason. So it may just need a little extra nudging. Now I'll come back in afterwards and some of these bolts down in here, I'll pick that up with like a silver just to add, you know, a little silver there, or gold, depending on. I'll check some reference photos and see what we got. Okay, so that is in and gluing. So now the next part of step 7, let me zoom back out again, is the rear exhaust, which we have painted and ready. It is right here. So this connects with this little part right here and down in these holes right here. So it goes under that cross piece that we just put in, slides in, and then locks down in those 2 little holes right there. So what we just did was we slid it under this cross piece right here. We slid it in and it joined right there. So that glue was holding it down. And then it locked back down into these little holes back here, which I put some glue. So what we're going to do now, while that's doing that, is we're going to pull out some more of the Tamiya panel liner, dark brown, and we're just going to touch these little seams on the exhaust, and let's go around, and then down in here, kind of around there, and on the other side, just touch it, and it usually just flows right around. I often mix up my own using raw umber, which I have it sitting literally right in front of me. But I wanted to try some of this for a change. It's almost the same stuff, but I think I can control my mix a little bit better because I can thin it more and get it to run the way I want. So clean out that brush so it doesn't get all nasty on me. All right, so what's funny is that completes step 7. That completes step 7. We did the cross members and the cross pieces, got those glued down. Then we got the exhaust leading back to the rear. We got that glued down. So now step 8 and our last part is I think that's a muffler. You guys can comment and let me know if I'm wrong or not. And then we have our tips, which I haven't done the inside of the exhaust tips, but I have, I found some reference shots, and I did find some that were, they're chrome, but they also had a little bit of heat coloring to them. So I did a little bit of heat staining to them, and so those will go on at the very end. So this now muffler part, it glues down basically using these 2 parts on the bottom of the chassis right here. That's its contact point. So we're going to grab this. Now this is a little bit glossy because of the smoke effect that I put on there. So I am going to have to literally brush on kind of a flat coat. Right now I'm just trying to line up so it sits down on its little pegs. So that is down. And hopefully that'll dry. I'm going to run a little bit of glue right down on that pipe because it's literally supposed to sit up against that. So, but like you said, or like you said, yeah, like I said, it's way too shiny on that muffler. So I need to dull that down with a flat coat, so that way I can knock it down and it won't be so shiny.
And then I'm going to add these exhaust tips, which are both F2. So they just, I guess I just need to pull them off of here, off my toothpicks. And we'll put a little bit of glue on here. And we'll take one. And they only can go on one way. So that one goes on there. And I'm really liking the way this Tamiya sparkling silver looks. Oh, come on. Why does one give me troubles and one doesn't? I don't understand. There we go. Just use a little bit of gentle persuasion. Put that back, put that back, put that back. And just like that, we are finished with step 6, step 7, and step 8. So a little housekeeping to do. I've got a little bit of, like I said, to run some flat. And you'll see that on the next video. I'll show you how that came out. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the way everything is coming out so far. So, there's, I don't know, like a message. But anyway, hey guys, thanks for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. If you like the video, go ahead and hit like. I appreciate it. And if there's any comments you have, go ahead. I love talking and getting comments. So I try to answer them as soon as I can. Hope you guys have a great night, and we'll see you for step 9. Thanks.